Hello and a warm welcome to the AI with Arun Show. Viewers, if you're tired of your projects getting derailed by bottlenecks and busy work, now imagine embedding an AI strategist into your team, one that not only automates tasks, but predicts risks and supercharges collaboration. That is exactly what we're exploring today with Thomas Scott, who is the CEO of Wrike. We'll dive into how AI is transforming project management from a simple to-do list into an intelligent, predictive engine for success. So Thomas Scott is at the forefront of integrating AI to enhance team productivity. His deep expertise in collaboration techniques is helping teams shape how modern teams should work around collaboration and overcome challenges and execute their strategies. So Thomas, a very warm welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. Really looking for today's conversation.
So let's dive in, Thomas. So Thomas, Reich has been in the project management space for a really long time. How are you seeing the definition of work management evolve from a simple task tracking to the complex intelligent systems that Reich powers today?
I mean, I'll tell you, it has really been a journey when you think about where it started and where we are right now. I mean, from Reich's perspective, we have a roughly 20-year history. And we've been innovating right alongside our customers as what we think of as work has kind of continuously changed. So I came in about 3.5 years ago to Wrike, working for our founder, Andrew Tylev, and his vision of what he saw when he founded the company was that the existing tools were just not adequate at managing work. And so his initial problem statement was simply, how do we help teams track projects and tasks more efficiently? And if you take a look at what has changed over that 20-year time period, we've moved from simple task tracking to optimizing workflows across entire organizations. And I'd put that into a couple of buckets. I mean, first, not all teams work in tasks or projects. So we expanded the concept to include collaboration, resource allocation, integrations, analytics. We added on concepts such as automations and templates and blueprints to get that scalability and customization. And then I think the second thing, and this is an area we'll keep touching on as we go throughout today's conversation, is domain fluency matters. And so if you look at where Wrike made a lot of investments, we built deep use cases in areas such as marketing and client service delivery and strategic PMO. All because we're trying to create that context as you move from just simple task tracking to optimizations. And now, of course, you and I are going to spend a lot of time talking about where AI fits into all of this. You know, essentially, every company is trying to figure out how do we harness this power for our business. And the way I think about it is we're moving from a world where work management has started to mature some, and now we're into this thought leadership phase again. And I see a big opportunity with this track record that we've got of how do we take advantage of the ability to rewire how work happens. And I actually think it's an advantage that we have been in this space for 20 years because we actually understand how our customers and their specific workflows operate, because this context lives inside Wrike. And so as we talk further about how we're embedding AI into our product, all of this is coming from that 20-year track record of how do you ultimately connect humans and AI together as part of this transformation process, kind of building on that whole evolutionary track that we just talked about over the last 20 years.
Wow, wonderful. 20 years in business, helping humans and agents come together to collaborate. And that's wonderful. Thomas, so you are a multi-product company now, as you said, right? So you have specific products around, let's say, marketing, around P&L, about analytics, task management, and a whole bunch of stuff. Plus, you have also done multiple acquisitions, like Klaxoon that I see on the background right behind you. So how is all this multi-product coming together to define the future of work? And how are you using this to differentiate yourself from your competitors?
Yeah. So let me start with our vision statement, because that'll put the context behind this a little bit. So Wrike's vision statement is we want to free people to focus on their most impactful work together. And that's sort of like this overarching principle of how we try and operate the business. But how do we actually do this in practice? And so the first thing I'll start with is we had long believed that Wrike is a system of record for how work gets done. And this is a critical concept because our work management platform captures workflow intent. And this intent is oftentimes cross-functional. And this is the very building block of what a team is trying to accomplish and how they go about doing it. Now, just to elaborate on this a little bit more, this system of record concept is important because curated data is the building block of how companies are rewiring work today. And multi-product contributes to this in two ways that I want to talk about. The first is we are picking up more modalities of work. Core Wrike is a structured work management system for workflows. Klaxoon, as you referenced in your question, this is an acquisition that we did at the beginning of 2025, and it's a visual collaboration platform. This offers us access to an unstructured environment that supports ideation, workshops, retrospectives, and alignment. And then there's a third one. We built Data Hub, and so we didn't acquire Data Hub, but we built Data Hub organically. This is a structured data product that operates as an add-on to the core Wrike service. It better works with structured data. So it works more in rows and columns as opposed to tasks, projects, spaces, folders. All of this kind of rolls up to the concept that different teams require different approaches. The second thing that I'd highlight here is coming back to this point around context. Business context has always been important. It's especially important now when you think about the application of Gen AI technologies. Wrike can provide much more meaningful insights, both in product as well as some of the other tools that we're offering by having more modalities of work bringing this together. So let me just add on a little bit on this idea. And so if you think about how we're rolling out AI today, we're rolling it out across all of these different modalities. We're rolling it out across Klaxoon, we're including it in Wrike. All of this is about creating intent based on what's in the workflow and then extending our ability to generate insights with Copilot and soon the AI agents that we'll be talking about. And so overall, we positioned ourselves from a capability standpoint, configurability standpoint, and then tying that directly into some of these specific domains, such as campaign management that I was talking about, all to create a holistic environment for our customers.
Wow. So Thomas, I like the way you said, and I took note of that you are the system of record for how work gets done. And I think, what you said at the beginning of your answer, that sort of is the foundation for everything that you spoke after that. And I love how you mentioned it, because that is right. That's what a lot of teams that I have seen and I've worked with use Wrike for. They use it for a variety of purposes, variety of use cases across business processes, business functions, and so on and so forth. So Thomas, so Wrike as a tool or a set of tools or a set of products is used by very large enterprises, as well as it's used even by very small teams. Right. So how do you sort of ensure that your product is equally usable and friendly, user-friendly for both these diverse kind of use cases?
So first off, I want to acknowledge that this is a non-trivial undertaking for any company. I don't care whether you are, one of the global two, or whether you are, an SMB, technology business. All of us face this sort of tension in the system of like, how do you gather and incorporate feedback? From my standpoint, we always want feedback, but we have to focus hard because we get a whole lot of it. And the framework that I like to lead our team with is have a vision, but never lose sight of the need to solve real problems now, which is essentially what our customers are demanding from us. And that means I'm asking them to dig into three things. It means, do we understand the problem statement? How do you deliver an ROI against that? And are we able to translate this into areas where we think that we've got a sort of higher right to win, specifically diving into some of that domain fluency I was speaking about. Now, tactically, the way we operate the business is we are typically doing 6-month planning stretches for product roadmap. We meet quarterly in detail. So even though we have a 6-month planning horizon, there's lots of changes that are happening on a quarterly review basis, and then we're frequently updating roadmap even in quarter based on some of these feedback elements. Now, from a detailed standpoint of like what we do to actually gather and assess feedback, it falls into a couple of buckets. We have a customer advisory board. We work with some of our biggest customers to understand those three questions that I was talking about of like, where are they seeing pain? How do we deliver value there? We take a whole lot of input from our go-to-market team. And by go-to-market, it's a broad bucket. I'm talking about sellers, I'm talking about success managers, I'm talking about support. It's like, help me identify what communication's coming in. For new innovations, areas like what we're going to talk about on AI, beta customers and early adopters are super important because we're taking their hypothesis, their inputs, we're working real time with them, and then we're turning that into a roadmap. We have a community board. We take that seriously. You collect a lot of information on there. You obviously can't action all of it, but you get a lot of input on that. And then finally, we do make strategic bets at the company level. And while this is informed by all of those other areas that I was talking about, it also is market research that our product team is doing or insights that our go-to-market team is generating that are thematic that we decide to make a fairly big bet for the company. Now, going into your specific question on like how we think about that interplay between smaller teams and bigger teams, one point that I would make is we ensure simplicity for the smaller teams. And so we're looking for how do you generate fast onboarding? Are we providing you templates? Is it an intuitive UX? And we're also keeping an eye on the enterprise grade capabilities, so that's security, governance, and advanced AI features. And I don't necessarily think of these two inputs on the smaller team and the bigger team as necessarily mutually exclusive. Because when you actually get into how work is done at the team level, small teams are powering every company. And so a lot of the feedback that you're getting has some consistency across both of those lens. Now, the other thing that we do that I keep coming back to is, I said, real problems are often associated with like a specific team that's powered on that. And that's what led us to a lot of the work that we did in domain-specific areas that I was referring to, such as marketing or professional services, where we get input, we're looking at how we're going to solve that problem, and then we go really deep. And so just to like click on one of those for marketing, for example, so we would do pre-built campaign templates, we would do collaborative proofing and approvals, we would focus on integrations with something like an Adobe Creative Cloud or digital asset management. All of those were ways of taking that feedback, contextualizing it into a domain-specific area, and then making it broadly applicable to solving our customer pain points.
Wow, that's beautiful, Thomas. And just for our audience, a lot of the audience that we have, viewers who come in, they are either startup founders themselves or early stage entrepreneurs. I do want to highlight what you just said. There's a lot of inputs at the road mapping that is determined based on the customer advisory board that you have, the communities that you have, and there's a lot of customer feedback that comes in while they are building the product. And that I think is a beautiful feedback and coaching points for a lot of these startup founders who come to the AI with Arun show. So thank you for talking about that with our viewers, because I think that's extremely, extremely important. How do you tie the roadmap with the feedback? Excellent. So Thomas, moving on to another point, there's a lot of new features that are coming in. Like you said, there is quarterly meetings that you have, the roadmap items that are constantly coming up. And this is a world where we are seeing rapid innovation, right? New features are coming in, particularly in the Gen AI or the AI, Agentic AI space. So how are you ensuring that your customers are actually able to discover, because you have so many customers, right? It's not possible to do it just one by one, or even emailers might get lost. But how do you ensure that customers are actually being able to discover the new features that are coming in, and then they're actually using those new features?
Yeah, I think this is such a relevant question given the high pace of deliveries, that feature delivery that we see in this world. I was reading an article that one of my product leaders shared with me over the weekend. It was talking about the 10x problem, which is, in a world where you've got 10x the speed without 10x the strategic thinking, you've just got 10x the chaos. And I think about that in the context of what we're talking about here is that you are not going to get 10x the time to talk to your customers to go try out new features. And so the process that we've followed through is we're thinking about how do we not overwhelm our customers is taking a look at each enhancement through the following lens. Was it validated with customer feedback before development? Meaning, are we actually building with intent? Number two, we're testing this through early access programs where we offer limited availability offerings through Wrike Labs, where you can get in there, play around with it, be able to provide that back. And then when we launch at GA, we're supporting with in-product onboarding, and we've got enablement programs upon release. And this is supported by our customer success managers, both on a digital basis as well as our human touch accounts. Then with respect to public roadmap, we do help provide updates both quarterly and shared with customers that help keep them engaged. And so we're doing that both with our bigger customers on our customer advisory boards, but we're also sharing through a number of customer touch points what we're building so they've got that awareness out there. Now, let me give you two kind of specific examples to try and make this a little bit more real. So we announced at our AI demo day almost a month ago now the launch of Wrike Copilot, and this is one of the focus areas of what we're building. And if you look at how we went through this release, we really touched on all of those areas. So we worked with some customers before we built it. We had a number of them that we were working with in labs. And then we actually had 3 customers that joined us on our recent demo day, Jellyfish, Syneos Health, and Varsity Brands, kind of walk through some of their insights as a way to validate, hey, look, we came in, this is how we learned it, and it's just another way to be able to demonstrate that feature adoption. And then we're going through that exact same process right now as we get ready for our Agentic release that's coming out at the beginning of next quarter. A lot of pre-work, early access, and then get ready for that onboarding and enablement with our go-to-market teams.
Wow, wonderful. So it looks like what you're saying is, Thomas, a lot of that is working in tandem with your customers, right? So customers are exactly in step with you. Wonderful. Thomas, let's talk a deep dive into the AI part of it, right? So you spoke about, the Copilot, right? Copilot that you are building. You also spoke about the Agentic AI that you're coming up with. So talk to our viewers about how AI is actually being used. What are some of the use cases that you are solving? So let's do a deep dive on AI and Agentic AI in particular.
Yeah, so look, super excited to talk about this right now because I think it's top of mind for everyone. And where I'd like to talk about this is, you and I started the conversation today noting that, look, Wrike has been in work management for 20 years, and there are a set of values and practices that I think really supported getting us to where we are today. And one of those was being one of our best customers, meaning we heavily use Wrike as an organization. And as we are thinking about this AI world, we are heavily consuming what we are building as well as a way to sort of provide that thought leadership and a model for transformation for our customers. So as we get into this era of what we've been calling rewiring work, there are a few things I'll talk about, then I'll get specific. So kind of going back to the feedback, we're actively engaging with our customers to see where they see value and where we can help. And that is that topic of, hey, look, solve pain now. Have a vision, but solve pain now. We're actively being our own best customer. And the way we're doing that is we're looking at pain points inside Wrike that we think that we can use our own technology to be able to solve. And we're doing that through top-down focus coming from me, where we are forcing teams to experiment, to map out workflows, to focus on ROI. And because we already use Wrike as a system of record for work, it helps us really pair together this concept of human intelligence plus AI really driving the organization forward. Now, let me shift a little bit and get specific in terms of what exactly we are building, and I'll provide some actual use cases to hopefully enrich that a bit. What we've talked about recently kind of falls into three specific areas of focus. The first is what we did with MCP server, and I know you know this. So model context protocol is essentially a way to, it's a universal adapter for bringing together different systems within an AI context. And what I like about this is it's a secure way to bring together Wrike data plus other data in an enterprise or customer system while protecting your proprietary data. So it's essentially a bring your own model approach. And we announced and launched this back in Q2. Second area that we're doing as a focus is what we're doing with copilots. And this is a context-aware assistant. It's inside Wrike. So you are inside the Wrike application. You can use it to do everything from draft, plan, and recommend actions in real time. We had launched this over a year ago, but we just had a very big refresh of the platform that we announced at our AI demo day a few weeks ago. The third focus area falls into what we are doing within our Agentic AI platform. And that initial release will happen in October. And what we'll be doing there is agents won't just be responding, such as in a co-pilot context. They'll actually be able to act and manage workflows and escalate risk. So you can think about it as taking mundane work, such as triaging incoming work requests, take that out of the way so people can focus on bringing their own thinking and collaboration to the table. Now, let me give you two specific areas of how we've seen some of these focus areas being used in practice, because that's where you actually get into how do you generate ROI. The first one is an internal Wrike use case that we've been sharing with customers, where our marketing team our performance marketing team runs campaigns across a number of digital assets. They're obviously on Google, they're obviously on social, and we collect all of that campaign level data, and that is put into a data warehouse. We have paired that up with an LLM to help us provide more rapid insights of the data there. We have also used Wrike MCP server to pull contextual information out of existing Wrike workflows. And so what you're picking up there is, this is data from intent. Like, what are we trying to accomplish? How are we going about it? How are we going to follow up on it? And this concept of bringing this together resulted in a number of things for us. Number one, it saved us about 40 hours a week, because this was a very manual activity to compare the data, to assign the follow-ups, to be able to track that down. Now what we're doing is we're doing the analytics within the LLM. We're pulling the intent data from the workflow, and then we're pulling back in those follow-up actions for assignment. So it's a really slick use case. It does require human in the loop, because you still have to understand the context of what's coming in. And the other big insight for me is that 80% of the exercise is data and business automation, with about 20% on the LLM itself. The other example that I wanted to share with you is what we're seeing our co-pilot customers using those use cases for. And I'd say there's three big ones that I'd really point to. Is one, we have a number of customers that have set up knowledge centers across their tasks and their folders. They're using Copilot as a query for knowledge management, as the ability to go in and scour through those records, be able to deliver insights. We're seeing a lot of usage on project queries where you're looking to identify patterns or to identify blockers and be able to drive resolution. What What links all of what we're building within AI to me, though, is this idea that while you can't go anywhere without seeing a conversation around AI, we have to be really cognizant of the fact that everywhere is not Silicon Valley. And that means we have to be very mindful that we're going to meet customers where they are today. And so the building blocks of what we have put out there for AI are all with that intent of meeting customers where they are today. And I think we've got the ability to make this real because we understand the domain needs, we understand their workflows, so we can bring this together in a way that actually shows how do you deliver ROI. And I don't know if you've had a chance to review the big MIT study that made a lot of headlines recently. To me, that really just articulated a lot of what I was running through. It's that to generate return, it's not just throw a lot of technology at the problem. It's curate your data, build a learning environment around it, and focus on specific use cases where you can generate return and then expand from there. And that's how we're approaching that problem with our customers.
Well, love that answer, Thomas. It's very heartening to know so much of the stuff that you're doing built around AI, and that's particularly beneficial to your customers. Thomas, let's touch down a little bit on the privacy and the data security concerns. Those are aspects that any AI systems are always front and center and in the mind of our customers, particularly when you use LLMs, right, or MCP servers. All right. So how have you been thinking about data privacy and security?
So I think this question goes a little bit to the point that I was making, that we're going to meet our customers where they are. Because if you think about security and governance, companies exist on a continuum. Bigger, more established companies by nature and by requirement are going to have much more of a compliance mindset in how they think about what has to be in place. Whereas smaller customers might have more of a risk-first approach to test out things and understand how they're going to grow and develop their business. MCP, in terms of what we put out there, is a way for those customers who want to have more of a privacy first and bring your own LLM model to be able to work with the data that is captured in our system of record. And so because of that, what you get is you get a few things from a security standpoint. You get strict data isolation. You get fairly rigorous access controls. You've got enterprise-grade security. And what we've built with MCP respects existing Wrike permissions. You don't have to go rebuild everything at once. And so when I think about how does this serve their privacy needs, they're able to get the AI-powered insights. It's going to work well in a compliance environment, and they're still going to be able to work with us on that continuum. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Wow, wonderful. So for my viewers, you heard Thomas that Wrike is a product company that is very focused on data privacy and security. So you should have no doubts in your mind whatsoever about these aspects as you're using the product. So Thomas, one related question: how have you been thinking about, or what can you share with our viewers about the future roadmap that you have? Again, whatever you can share in public.
Yes, let me use this opportunity to talk a little bit about what we've got upcoming with Agentic. And as I mentioned earlier, we do have a big release coming up on that in Q4. We had noted that during our AI demo day that's coming. So let me talk about where I see this fitting. So first off, going back to my vision statement for Wrike, Agentic AI is 100% aligned with that. In a world where we want everyone free to focus on their most impactful work together. You heard me kind of repeatedly say that I believe that the work management platform, being a system of record for work, just has so much context and learning ability contained within it. And we're building the Agentic platform on top of it. And then as you start to think about how do you get really specific, agents give you the ability to go very deep on some of these domain areas that we've referenced. You can go very specific within a project. You can go very specific within a particular piece, such as strategic PMO or client service delivery or managing a marketing campaign. And I think for me, the big hurdle as we're thinking about how do we get this out there, how do we get customers to adopt it, is probably less on the technology side, more on managing the trust and the change management and getting the right data curation together. Because that really is the right recipe to drive the transformation back. And we'll be sharing a lot more on what we're doing with agents here in a little over a month. But it's going to be a big part of what we're doing going forward. And we see a way to kind of extend what we've announced so far with co-pilots and what I was sharing that we're doing with the bring your own LLM approach as well.
Wonderful. So Copilot, Wrike Copilot, Agentic AI, and all the stuff that you have been doing around data privacy security. All of that is great stuff, Thomas. Thank you for sharing that with our audience. All right, so let's move on to the last segment of our show, which is the rapid fire round. So here's my first question to you. What is the most underrated feature in Wrike?
Blueprints. They solve some of the hardest problems in work management, and that's turning best practices into repeatable and scalable processes. I can't talk enough about those.
All right. So any one of our viewers, if you have used Wrike or thinking about Wrike, listen to what Thomas said, and you should use more of that product feature. All right. The second one that I have, in one word, what is the biggest challenge facing the productivity software market?
It's focus. There's so many tools and too many distractions, and ultimately those distractions make it much harder to deliver the context that's going to power the next wave of growth in this industry.
Yeah, you're right. This market is a little bit too crowded, but there are really very few products that are really top notch, and Wrike happens to be one of them. All right. The third one I have: which emerging technology besides AI are you most excited about?
I'm going to cheat a little bit with this answer because it is somewhat tangential to AI, but interoperability standards are, one of the top things I think about, because the ability for systems to be able to talk to each other to help shape a lot of the building blocks of what we're talking about is what ultimately unleashes AI. So even though it's not AI itself, it certainly is an accelerant there, and it's what I'm most excited about.
Yeah, no, you're right. When A2A Google announced A2A agent to agent, right, I was very excited because that solves a lot of the interoperability problems. So I'm with you. All right, the fourth one I have: what is a common misconception people have about work management software?
I think the biggest misconception you get is that it's about project tracking, when I think you and I both know in reality it's aligning strategy, it's people, and pretty soon it's hybrid human AI agents to be able to deliver business outcomes.
Yeah, it's far more complicated. Yeah, spot on. And then the last one is the fill in the blank question. In the next 5 years, AI will make dash obsolete in project management.
Task management is going to completely disappear as we are kind of rewiring the guts of how work gets done.
Beautiful, beautiful. Love that, Thomas. And with that, we come to the end of the show. Thomas, thank you so much for taking the time with our audience.
All right, thank you so much for having me on. I really enjoyed today's conversation.
Thank you.